Today we're going to look at European rivalry. And what do we mean by the word rivalry? Rivalry. Once you see the word rivalry, what are we talking about? You can use your Google, your dictionaries to look for the word rivalry. Yes, Bianca, war. See, when we talk about rivalry, we are talking about war. Anyone else?
Sir, sir, it says competition for the same objective or for superiority in the same field.
Wow. Yes. Competition. Uh, and thank you very much, Bianca. Disagreement, competition. These are some of the terms that so we have European rivalry. We say war is one, competition, yes, disagreement, the same field. So there's some form of competition in the same field, rivalry. And all of this is correct when we use the term rivalry. But what if we should attach European rivalry, right? What are we talking about?
The different European countries in competition.
Yes, very good. So European rivalry involves the different European countries in competition. Yes, that is one. Any other? But if you want to, if you're going to the exam and they ask you about European rivalry, very broad concept. Different European countries in competition. But what are they in competition for? Or what? Go ahead for me, Brown.
Sir, they're in competition for resources like gold and other things to build their economy in their own country.
So they are in competition over resources such as gold. Yes. What else?
To build their economy.
To build their economy. All right, we are getting somewhere. Competition. What would the Europeans have? What would be what competition they would have had during this time that we're studying, the 16th and the 17th century? So we know for sure that they were in competition for gold.
And the amount of land they colonized?
They also were in competition for land. Which land?
Americas.
Land in the Americas. Very good. So we know for sure that European countries were in competition over gold. Yes. They were in competition over land in the Americas. And also they were in competition for other resources. Other resources such as other
Raw materials.
Yes, precious minerals, raw materials, right? And so we know for sure that they were in competition. But how is it that they were in competition? What was why everybody just could not, just all the European countries could not just come into the Americas and just live? Why was there some form of competition? What was causing that blockade for others to enter the field and to inhabit and to get their wealth from the Americas? What was that? What was the issue? So we know some Europe,
Monopoly,
who had monopoly.
the Spanish,
So we know for sure very good the Spanish had their monopoly over the, which area? The Spanish had monopoly over the, which area? Was it Africa? Was it Asia?
Americas,
The Americas.
Americas. So we know for sure that the Spanish had a monopoly over the Americas. Now, what are the different ways in which the Spanish, in particular, try to keep out other European countries out of the Americas? What different ways did Spain put in place to keep out European countries out of the Americas?
the asiento,
They use the asiento, very good. Could you remind me what was the asiento?
Um,
license to trade slaves,
License to slave trade. So you had to apply for a license to trade enslaved Africans. So that was a form of control. You could not just come in and just trade enslaved Africans like that. You had to apply for a license. Very good. Go ahead for me, Brown.
Sir, they had coast guards that patrolled the seas, and they had other weapons like guns and cannons to fight back against people that wanted to take over the territory.
Very good. So they had coast guards, what they call costa guardas. Yes, very good. Any other way? So we know for sure, and they had guns. So the first thing was that we know for sure that they had the asiento. They also had coast guards that patrol the sea.
sir, you spelled that wrong.
And yeah, coast guards. And also, thank you very much. And also, they had guns. What else they had?
Sir, cannons.
Mortar?
Cannons will fall under guns, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if we're going to use heading, we could use weapons.
Artillery.
Yes. What other way they would have used to keep out other countries? Go ahead for me, Brown.
Sir, the convoy system.
Yes, so they implemented the convoy system as a way of keeping out the countries outside. What was the convoy system?
Sir, the convoy system was where like merchant ships that travel together with military protection.
Very good. Thank you very much. So that was another way in which they tried to protect, to keep out others. Any other way?
Sir, the privateers.
That's the privateers. Tell us about it.
Sir, they were authorized to attack the foreign ships.
Yes, they authorized to attack the ships, but you're sure that they were not one of the
Sir, but weren't they French?
Yes, the privateers were French. So in fact, they put in these systems in place because they had challenges from the privateers. They also had challenge from pirates, who were the British, and also in the British, we also had what? What also we had when it comes to the British? The Buccaneers. So the French, the Pride were called. So these were all illegal groups in the Americas that came from Europe. They wanted a piece of the pie. So the privateers were the French, the pirates, British, the buccaneers, British, and all what they did was that they went in and they tried to steal from or attack merchant ships, Spanish merchant ships, or attack the islands to try to take over the island. So they put all of these in place here because they had competition from these over here. Another way in which they tried to protect their empire was through the use of the House of Trade. And that was the House of Trade was responsible for the trading in the Americas. And so we know for sure that the the Spanish put in place things to keep out, yes, the Spanish put in place quite a lot of methods to keep out other European countries from the Americas. So they maintained a system of monopoly. And so we know for sure that the English, the French, and the Dutch, they are going to try to challenge Spanish monopoly. So for the French, we have the privateers. For the English, we had the pirates and the buccaneers. And what they all did, the English, the French, the Dutch, they were very jealous and always remember the word jealousy is the main problem here. They were very, very, very jealous of the amount of wealth that the Spanish gained from the Americas. The Spanish gained quite a lot of wealth. She had all the golds coming in, and she had her ships that is being protected by military arms, right? You have to ask permission. And so the English, the French, and the Dutch, they wanted a piece of the pie. They saw that Spain became very wealthy as a result of her colonization of the Americas. And so they are going to have war competition, disagreement in the same field of colonization to conquer lands in the Americas. So they are fighting over lands. They are taking away lands from the Spanish. They wanted precious minerals, raw materials. They also wanted gold. So there's competition that is taking place. Rivalry. And so they're going to challenge now Spain's monopoly. Now, if we look at this here area right here, this map, in the 1500, the Spanish claimed the entire Caribbean. But guess what? The Spanish would have settled mostly in Central America, South America, some parts in South America. These are the areas that they would have settled significantly, but they would have settled in areas like Cuba, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and on the island of Hispaniola. They left all of these islands, with the exception of Trinidad, that they would have settled also on Trinidad. But they left the smaller islands by themselves. All of this area was left by themselves. All of these areas in the Lesser Antilles were actually left by themselves. But despite they were left by themselves and they did not settle on those islands, they said all of the Americas still belong to us. And so one of the first things that is going to take place let us pull up a map here. All right. So we know for sure that this is a map of the Americas. All of this area is the Americas. And we know, as I have stated before, that they would have settled in areas like the Spanish would have settled in areas like Florida. So they would have settled here. They would have settled in Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, all of this area in Central America. They would have also settled from here straight down to Peru. And which other country would have settled here outside of Spain?
Portuguese.
The Portuguese, Portugal would have settled here. So a few of these lands right here would have been unsettled. The same way in which most of this area in North America would have also been unsettled. And if we take a closer look in the Caribbean, they would have settled in Cuba, Jamaica, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and also Trinidad and Tobago. But all of these islands here, the Bahamas, Turks, the islands in the Lesser Antilles, the smaller territories, were not settled. In fact, even Jamaica that was settled was not effectively settled, meaning that not a lot of Spanish lived there. They just did small farming on Jamaica. And so this was how it looks in the 1500s. Then by 1612, and I believe before 1612, they would have settled here, where it is. You see this little small little island right here? We not even can see it so properly. Bermuda. So if we look right here, we are seeing Bermuda. In 1612, they would have settled in Bermuda. This little island right here, which is in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, nobody really wanted, we not even can see it properly. Nobody wanted Bermuda, right? So you have to start small before you go big. Sometimes some people want to start big, right? At one go. But the British or the English that settled here, so the English lived, this is where the English lived here. We had the French here, we call it now, Spain here, and Portugal here, right? And the Netherlands, which is here, this is where the Dutch came from. So in Spain, in Europe, these are the areas that are fighting for control. Spain, the Portuguese, England, which is here, France, the Netherlands, which is the Dutch. Now we go across here, the English started very small. You don't start big, you start small. And they took over Bermuda in 1612. Then, after that, they are going to continue to fight over territories. And the next place that they are going to take control over in the Caribbean is a place that is called St. Kitts. St. Kitts, which is right here. So the next stop for the British was that nobody lived on St. Kitts. And so they took over St. Kitts. So they started to take over lands in the Americas. No. So this was the British. You start small. Why they were able to take over these islands here? Because they were not settled by the British.
Spanish.
Sorry, the Spanish. They were not settled by the Spanish. Thank you that you are following. They were not settled by the Spanish. And so you have the first island that was taken over by the British in the Caribbean, or the English in the Caribbean, is St. Kitts, also called St. Christopher. After St. Kitts, they're going to settle on another island and they are going to take over that beautiful island, Barbados, in 1627. So you realize that the English is taking over places that the Spanish did not settle on. So now they settled on Barbados. So they are taking over. The Spanish is very upset that the British has come in. And one, they try to take over their ships, steal things from their ships. They're not the privateers, the pirates and the buccaneers. They try to steal from their ports, take over their ships, capture some of their coast guards. Yes. And so we have here Barbados. So if we look now, we can see that they are starting small. So we have St. Kitts, which is here. Then they went and they settled in Barbados. They took over Barbados. Then after Barbados, they are going to settle on an island, Nevis, which is next to St. Kitts. Then they are going over to settle on Antigua. They are taking over these areas. Then they are going to Anguilla. Anguilla is here. And then they are going over to the Virgin Islands and they are going to settle on an island that is called Tortola, which is this island here, Tortola. And so what we have is that the British, they are taking over very small territories in the Caribbean. Not only the British taking over, but the French also realize that they have an opportunity to come into the Caribbean and to take over places also. So the French, they tried originally to take over St. Christopher from the British. So the first war started now between, well, we know the war was always between the Spanish. Now the French turn against the British and say, listen, we heard that you have this little one here. This island look very beautiful. We could make some money from this island, St. Christopher. And so they try to take over St. Christopher. The French now, they are going to take over countries like, territories like Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada. And so what is going to happen in the Caribbean, in this area here, with the exception of Barbados, is that the French and the British are constantly going to fight over these islands. So for example, in St. Lucia, the French and the British, they fought 14 times over St. Lucia. The British won 7 times and the French won 7 times. Right? And so same thing for St. Vincent, they are going to fight over St. Vincent. The same thing for Grenada. Right? And so what we are seeing here is that the French and the British are going to constantly at war over these territories. And the next thing is that the Dutch, which is from the Netherlands or Holland at the time, They are located right here, the Netherlands here, the Dutch. They are going to come into the Caribbean also, and they are going to settle on some of the islands. Not major warfare, nothing major. They went down to the south here, and they settled on places like Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, which is called the ABC Islands. So they are settling right here. The Spanish did not settle on these islands, so they were able to take those little three. They also went up north and they settled on some of these islands here in the US Virgin Islands, which is now called the US Virgin Islands, places like St. Croix. And they also settled on some of the islands here. They would have had some level of control over some of the islands here. Yes, and today people live on all of these islands. But if you realize, ladies, that the Spanish had a control over Cuba, the island of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica. And so a lot of war was taking place here. Now the British organized something that was called the Western Design. And they are going to lead an expedition from Barbados. And what you think their goal was, the British leaving from Barbados, where you think that their aim was to take over which one of the islands in the Caribbean? Which island do you believe that they are going to take control over? They want to take control over. If you were a European country and you see that you come into the Caribbean, the French and the British, they are fighting over the Lesser Antilles. They have rivalry over it. Every minute, one country win this island, settled on it. The next one win it, settle. And so you have a lot of war taking place. Which one of these islands would be the prized possession?
Greater Antilles.
The islands in the Greater Antilles would have been the prized possession, but which one you believe would be the put yourself in the mindset of the British and the French. Which one of these islands you would want to take over?
Hispaniola?
You would want to take over Hispaniola. Why you're going to take over Hispaniola? Because one, why you believe they wanted to take over Hispaniola? Hispaniola was go ahead for me.
Sir, it's in the center, and once they conquer Hispaniola, they can use it as a route to travel to Jamaica, Cuba, and the rest of the territories.
Yes, because of her geographic location. And also, Santo Domingo, which was right here, was in charge of most of these islands. So if you could capture Santo Domingo, the seat of Santo Domingo, then you could go and you could capture the other areas. Yes. The British went as close to capture areas like Turks. And so everybody, both the French and the British, the Dutch really never that ambitious. We don't want to say that they are not ambitious, but they just settle with their little islands here. Sometimes you have to settle for less. So the British now and the French decide that the gold, the wealthiest island in the Caribbean was Hispaniola. And so the British led an expedition from Barbados to Hispaniola to take over Hispaniola. And that was in 1655. And so they went now, but the Spanish, they were so strong. Their military might on Hispaniola was so strong that the British was not able to take over Hispaniola. And so what they are going to do is that they are going to go to Jamaica to settle on Jamaica. And so why do you believe it was easier to take over Jamaica in 1655 than to take over Hispaniola, Cuba, or Puerto Rico? Why was
So,
it easier to take over
Jamaicans
Jamaica?
have gold or anything?
Jamaica did not have any gold, but what else?
sir, the Spanish kind of neglect them because they never had the certain resources that they were looking for. So it would be easier for them to take it over.
Yes, and very good. And so because they neglect them, you had less people living on there, and you would not have quite a lot of Spanish military personnel on the island of Jamaica. And so in 1655, the British or the English took over Jamaica. And that is why today the Caribbean, we have Cuba, which is Spanish here, Dominican Republic, which is Spanish, Puerto Rico, which is Spanish, the British, Jamaica, which is English. But if you realize that the Spanish and the British and the French did not try to take over these territories, they didn't try because they were very strong. This is where all the goals were, these territories. And so they had very strong protection in Central and South America. And that is why today in Central and South America, these countries here, they speak Spanish.
Sir,
Go ahead for me.
sir, in the book that we read, there was something called the El Dorado. Something like
Yes,
so, sir, that could distract them and make them want to like focus them attention on Trinidad and Ghana, and they basically say, you know what, they don't have any goal. That's their assumption, but they didn't really know, sir.
yes, and that is correct. You are correct. And so if we look now in this part, now we're going to look at this Hispaniola. So by 1697, the French is going to make another attempt to take over. So while the British said, boy, it's real difficult for us to try and take over Hispaniola, the French said, listen, I'm going to try because we have to have a piece of the pie. These little islands over here not giving us enough money. Guadeloupe, Martinique, every minute the British fighting us over St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Vincent and Grenada. These places not giving us a lot of wealth. In fact, they have no gold or anything. We know for sure that Hispaniola had no gold, but Hispaniola was very wealthy. And so what they are going to do is that in 1697, the French is going to take over the east, the western side of Hispaniola, all of this area here. And the Spanish will remain with the western side. Sorry, foolishness. The eastern side was controlled by the Spanish. The west was controlled by the French. So in 1697, the French controlled the western side, and that area was called Saint-Domingue. All right? And so what we have here in the Caribbean to be exact, is that rivalry took place. Once the British took control over Jamaica, they took control over the Cayman Islands. They also tried and they went and they took control over Belize, and they took control over the Bahamas, Turks, Bermuda. But one of their prize colony would have been Barbados for the British, right? And so this is how we have the different parts in the Caribbean. If you look on page, let us see. If you look in your book on page 67, on page 67, you will see the different times when different sections were conquered by different powers. All right, on page 67, there's a timeline that is there, and you will see different periods when they're conquered. So what I want you to do is that I want you to read for me for tomorrow's class, page 48, page 48, which we would have covered most of this, to 66, page 48 to 66. So you're going to read those pages in your book. So when we come for tomorrow morning, ladies' participation is important. So when we meet tomorrow, we are going to discuss some of the themes from this. I've given you an overview of some of the issues that is going to take place in the Americas as a result of our theme, European rivalry. Any comments? Any question? No comments, no question? All right, ladies, we are almost at the end. So I'm going to ask you kindly, please, to ensure that you read these pages so tomorrow morning we can have a discussion. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, sir, and same to you.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye, everyone.